How's it going, everyone? I'm Jakejames Lugo, and welcome to the channel. And bear with me, excuse the change in the background because I just finished my move, and this is the first video review we're doing from the new place. But of course, time waits for no man, and you guys don't wait for any excuse whatsoever, so I wanted to get a video review and kind of hit the ground running. So we're going to talk about some gaming stuff today, specifically with the WWF. If you didn't know, I grew up in New York, and I used to go to the house shows back in the day, so it was only natural that I played some wrestling games, as I've talked about in the past. But the one we're talking about today was done by the people over at Midway and borrowed a lot of stuff from Mortal Kombat. And trust me, it worked out for the better. WrestleMania the arcade game is a fighting game known for its wild rendition of the superstars from the WWF. The game was made in 1995 for arcades, utilizing digitized graphics like the Mortal Kombat series. This came out during the New Generation era, where things began to change for the WWF in the mid-90s. Acclaim held the license to make WWF games and published a variety of titles on both the Super Nintendo and the SEGA Genesis. This WWF game really played up the fantasy aspect of wrestling, with the gimmicks of wrestlers dialed up to 1,000. Seeing The Undertaker hit opponents with real tombstones or Bam Bam Bigelow putting someone on fire is crazy enough, but then the game goes even further by having Doink the Clown pull out a massive hammer to beat people down with. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Hands down, this is a ridiculous, fun take on wrestling that really wasn't done before. And to be honest with you, it really was incredibly refreshing to see at the time. Okay, I don't think it's too much of an exaggeration to say just how insane WrestleMania can be. I've played every single version of this game from the original arcade all the way through all the console ports, and I'm always amazed at just how over the top and ridiculous this game can get in the best way possible. I also feel like even if you're not a big wrestling fan, you'll look at everything happening in this game like during matches, and you'll be so dumbfounded and just have to keep watching. It's just hilarious, like some of the things that can happen, and I feel like even if you know nothing about these characters, you're just gonna laugh and just be like, man, I just have to keep looking at this because there's freaking pins and all these other different things coming out of these guys, or dudes are getting burnt alive. It just looks absolutely insane. Speaking of which, even though this is the same team that worked on the Mortal Kombat games, they really channel a lot of their energy and their talent for all the stuff that they did with the hyper violence in that game. They really kind of like play it up with the cheesiness and just the campy nature of wrestling, where characters are dropping different items like pins, like chickens from like Yokozuna, or like, you know, fiery sparks from Bam Bam Bigelow. Like all these different wrestlers have all these items that drop when they get hit that play up their persona and their gimmicks. And for someone as like me that's like a big fan of wrestling, or even people that just see wrestling for the first time, I feel like it's going to be really enjoyable, even though it doesn't really have a whole lot of impact on the game as a whole. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's talk about gameplay stuff, and specifically, I'm going to focus on the Genesis version of this game, even though I know there's multiple versions on the Super Nintendo, the arcade, the 32X, and all this other stuff. The one that I grew up the most with was the one on SEGA Genesis, so that's the one I'm really going to judge in this review. WrestleMania has 3 main game modes. You can take on a series of opponents to win the WWF Intercontinental Championship or the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. This is basically an arcade mode that is similar to Mortal Kombat. However, you can also play with a second player cooperatively to fight for the Tag Team Championships. And of course, you could also face each other in versus one-on-one competition. Beyond that, there's nothing else here. So don't come into this thinking you'll be able to customize match types or anything like that. This isn't like the simulation wrestling games that you'd find out there. It's a straight-up arcade game. On the SEGA Genesis, there's a variety of controller types to pick from. I appreciate the options, but the best one for me is obviously the 6-button layout, because it's the closest one to the original arcade controls. Controlling a wrestler in matches is exactly like Mortal Kombat. You have light and strong versions of your punches and kicks, along with a run button and a block button as well. Even if you don't play a lot of fighting games, you'll get the hang of things pretty quickly. There's a total of 8 wrestlers on the roster to pick from, each with their own crazy special moves. No matter who you choose, however, everyone will control essentially the same. It really comes down to who you're a fan of in the WWF, if you're a wrestling fan. When I say that things can get ridiculous, I really mean it. Some of the attacks will send opponents flying into the air, burning them alive, launching them across the ring, pounding them into the ground, and so on and so forth. It's over the top in every way possible, and it's incredibly funny to watch. I mean, look at some of these ridiculous things that could happen in it. Now, unfortunately, even though I love this, the SEGA Genesis version of WrestleMania does have a few problems. Matches can suffer from severe slowdown when there's a large number of wrestlers in the ring. The difficulty can also get a bit unbalanced during solo play, even if you're playing on medium or lower settings. The game also loses a lot of the detail and special effects when you're in matches with more than 2 wrestlers in the ring at a time. You don't get to see any of the items drop when wrestlers get hurt. I totally get that this happens in order for the game to run smoothly on a Genesis, but one can't help but feel a little bit disappointed after seeing how good the game can look in the original arcade version. Despite some of my criticisms really based on the limitations of the hardware and some of the game modes that I feel like, again, they're very limited for what they are, there really isn't a whole lot to complain about with the Genesis version of this game. I also feel like that regardless what I or anybody else says, if you want the best version of WrestleMania, you're always going to play the arcade original. There's no way that the console ports are going to beat that. One other thing I should mention is that this game was actually supposed to get even more content beyond what we got here, including a brand new character like Adam Bomb, but for whatever reason, he was pulled out at the very last second. It would have been cool if we had an even bigger roster as well, because there were other wrestlers at the time during the new generation era of the WWF, but for whatever reason, they only went with a select few characters, which could have been because of time, could have been because of development costs or anything else, but they did get a sequel to this game, but we'll talk about that one another time. So can I recommend that you guys check out WrestleMania the arcade game? Even if you're playing on the home console ports or playing in the arcades, I feel like this game is still fun, it's really over the top and crazy, and even if you're not a big wrestling fan, you're going to find something that you might like about it. The controls are simple to get into, even though there's not a lot of game modes to mess with, this is still simple, fun arcade action that if you love the Mortal Kombat series or if you're familiar with that type of franchise, you're really going to have a lot of fun with this one. And there you go, everyone. Those are my thoughts about WrestleMania, the arcade game. I grew up with this game. I had a lot of fun times playing it on my SEGA Genesis, and again, all throughout the years when I played all the different versions. But I say a lot of these things as a wrestling fan, but I feel like a lot of you non-wrestling fans will really enjoy this. The one thing that we all have in common, whether we love wrestling or not, is that we all love Mortal Kombat in some form or another. So, like, this game is, like, right up everybody's alley with just how crazy and over the top it can be. And also, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video now being the first video that I've done in the brand new place. Granted, a lot of this stuff is going to change, but still, hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing this video review. Just let me know your thoughts about it down below in the comments section. Tell me, are you a fan of wrestling games? Do you like WrestleMania? What other games that are similar to this one that you actually enjoy that you could share with everybody in the comments? Or what else do you want to see here in the background? Like, what do you guys think about all this stuff now that I'm in the new place? Talk to me about everything down below in the comments section. Hey there everyone, thanks for watching this video. I appreciate all of your support as always. On the side here I have some game reviews and other cool videos you might like to watch. Make sure you leave me a comment down below and subscribe to the channel too. Don't forget to hit that bell icon to be in the know when I post up new videos for you to check out. I'll talk to you all again real soon. Peace out and stay epic everybody.